Okay, so all Cretans are liars. So I'm not going to incite you this evening to some form of hate crime. This is going to be an interesting talk based around something somebody once said in the ancient world, which is that all Cretans are liars, was said by Epimenides of Knossos, which is not something to attempt to say while drunk. Now, Epimenides was a Cretan, and they were famously sharp traders, which is why he was saying, they're all liars. But just to be clear, Cretan means he's from Crete, okay? And I've included a little diagram with a kind of an arrow on it so that you know exactly where Crete is. Lovely place. Anyway, so Epimenides said all Cretans are liars, and he was himself a Cretan, and thus we have a paradox. But that, I don't mean the old PC database. So obviously the paradox is that if he is telling the truth, then he is not lying, which is then a paradox. Or if he is lying, then how could it work? So clearly a philosophical problem, which is a shame because I think he meant it as a joke. So it's an interesting philosophical problem, but we're database people. So we have to write this as an SQL statement. And if we look at that, we've got a table called people, and we are able to identify the origin of these people, and everybody has just one origin. So you can't be a Cretan American or anything like that. So there's another column in there that's a Boolean, which is tells truth, and the apparent paradox exists when you run this query by a Cretan and you get the answer 0. Now this, the reason I picked this particular query and this topic is that it actually highlights a couple of quite interesting points, and I'll go through what those points are. So it, in some senses, is an organisational data quality problem, because in order to run that query and use it to test the answer to our question, are all Cretans liars, we have to actually know that that is complete. So that's the first thing that you get in data quality, is to actually know, is my database covering the complete answer to all the things I want to know. Then the second point is accuracy. How did we assess the value of the tells truth column? Is there some kind of standard test that we can apply to Cretans in order to test their veracity? And of course, what does that mean? What does that tells truth equals true statement mean? Does that mean you once told a small porky and therefore it becomes true? Or what happens if you used to lie but now you always tell the truth? So in terms of a definitional problem, we have to understand exactly what that column means. So these are all points that we need to consider when we're building a database, because it's all very easy to add a column to a database. That's an easy thing to do, but populating the data in the database is obviously a key trick. Now, it is also a visibility problem, because in order to prevent this answer from being wrong, we actually have to lock the table, because otherwise, while running the query and getting the answer 0, because of the wonderful concurrency of Postgres, we might have inserted a Cretan into the table concurrently with this question, and that Cretan told the truth, which would mean that as soon as we get the answer 0, we'd actually immediately be incorrect. So concurrency is a problem here as well. Now, the other aspect is that how quickly can we run such a query? Because if we've got to run it in such a way that we're holding a lock on this whole table for a long time, then it's clearly not going to be a very concurrent database. It also highlights privacy problems in the data, in the sense that we have to assess the value of the column tells truth. So who's allowed to look at that value? Can you challenge the value? Presumably there might be some cretins that would object to having been assessed that they were liars. So can we then update that data? Who has the rights to update the data in the database? So obviously it's a joke, but I'm using it to highlight aspects of the databases that we run with Postgres. It's also a problem in certainty, in the sense that can we, are the values actually accurate from everybody's perspective? And that highlights that we might actually need some form of probabilistic data so that we're able to ask a question with a certain level of certainty. So what I'm trying to do via this is really just explain that there's actually quite a few things that we still need to do with databases in order to make them fully usable in the real world. Obviously, we're all using them now in business, but there's some things that we really would like to do in the future, which is introducing logic into databases a bit more, looking at maybe historical queries and probabilistic queries as well, and potentially approximate queries. So it's obviously Friday afternoon. When I did this in New York, it was perhaps a little funnier the first time, I don't know. But we were all killing ourselves. So anyway, anyway, moving on from there. So what I wanted to do was tell you a bit more about second quadrant. So I was going to say the guy that runs it forced me to give this presentation. So oh blimey, there's a wave there, wasn't it? I could almost time how long that took you to think through. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the projects that we're working on at second quadrant at the minute. We've obviously just done logical decoding, and thank you to Michael for going through that in some detail. It reminded me really how much work has been done behind the scenes. So while I stand up easily and say, oh, we've got logical replication working, it kind of sounds almost trivial, doesn't it? But I think that's highlighted that there's quite an extensive number of changes have already been put in the server in order to make that work. So that's good. We are continuing to work on multi-master bidirectional replication, and there will be various open source outcomes. I say open source outcomes, that kind of almost implies that there are some closed source ones. Well, there's not. We're doing everything open source, releasing it all to the community via the PGDG, so it's all fully usable in the same way that Postgres is. We're also doing other projects on performance and usability, by the way, but just to mention that. Just a couple of graphs for the people that didn't attend some of the talks that I gave earlier. We have measured the performance of BDR against other replication solutions. And we did that carefully in the sense that we didn't just measure it straightforwardly. We actually balanced the systems so that we had a transactional latency below a certain point before we did the test. So we believe it's a a fully fair test, and that's showing that the BDR performance is just slightly less than physical replication on the test system that we did, and also the the replication latency during that test was significantly less as well. So both higher throughput and better transactional latency, replication latency, sorry. Some of the other stuff that we're doing, I think you may be familiar with Dimitri's work on PG Loader. PG Loader, just to emphasize that point, comes with a complete migration facility to allow you to migrate MySQL databases. There was one other as well, database? SQLite as well, thank you very much. So you can use that to translate your databases directly and fully into PostgreSQL. Okay? We're also working on Rep Manager and Barman, and there's lots of other features being actively worked on as part of those. We're also done some work recently on ODBC and JDBC drivers and bugs and stuff. We're kind of involved in a wider sense with some things. We've sponsored some additional Django enhancements for Postgres. We're also working with the guy that's writing a tool called Heidi SQL. I have to confess I hadn't heard of it beyond some time ago, but the reason I hadn't heard of it was that it's a very popular MySQL client, and now it's a very popular Postgres client as well. So by supporting that developer, we've actually put a capability to access Postgres into the hands of about 70,000 MySQL developers. Okay, so obviously our intent is a wide adoption. Oh, sorry, what? Education, yes. That's the polite way to put it, isn't it? So, yeah. So just a couple of points for people that don't know us yet. Second Quadrant does a lot of PostgreSQL development. We do that for hire, basically. So if you've got a feature or something that you think would like to go into to Postgres, we're very happy to consider it. Obviously, it needs to be considered to be useful by the rest of the community. So we don't have the ability to force in things. So it's basically, if it's good for the community, then we're happy to work on it. We offer 24/7 support. And we're able to do that because we've got a staff of about 40 people that literally work all around the world. So we've got people in Japan, Australia, India, the Americas, North and South, and quite a lot of people in Europe as well. Hundreds of customers, but probably one of the things that you might think from my British BBC accent is that we don't work often with US customers, but actually it's probably one of the largest geographical regions that we work with. So we do have significant numbers of US customers. So yeah, just so what does Second Quadrant work towards? Well, Second Quadrant is a business, but what we are in the business of is developing Postgres through our work directly as developers, but obviously our work in supporting people that use it. We're aiming to get Postgres to be the #1 database. What do I mean by #1 database? Well, really, I want to be able to say that Postgres is the database of choice for 99% of use cases. Okay, we are not trying to supplant other database systems. in a great many cases, we expect to see existing databases stay in the market for decades yet. But what we can do is make Postgres the choice for people that have a choice. I think that is possible because Postgres is genuinely extensible to enhance specific applications, and I think PostGIS is a great example of how Postgres has been able to offer additional functionality that's directly aimed at a particular and important use case, but there are other ones as well. It's very important that Postgres is available on a wide variety of platforms, and that's everything from very small devices right up to supercomputers. So pervasive computing is important in getting things adopted. What we want to do is make sure that Postgres is fully open source, active and growing community. And obviously we support what I call the open engineering process, not just, there's a sort of conceptual difference between things that are published as open source but weren't developed in an open way. And I think it's important that Postgres is both open source but built with open engineering. And that's why when people speak on the list who are from Second Quadrant, you'll see us arguing and disagreeing with each other and that kind of thing. And it's all done in public. We're not kind of discussing things behind the scene and then coming forward with some pat answer. So open engineering is really important. The last thing to say is really about the community, because I think sometimes we get the idea that that Postgres is purely a technical community. So everybody here has got some kind of a job related to databases. You're using Postgres, you're working for a company that's selling it, you're helping other people. It's really important that in order to get the adoption across, that we understand that it's a business community as well. It's a marketplace, and making it that way is not a secret, it's not a problem, it's actually a really good thing. And so certainly we're very happy to be one of the companies that's part of that marketplace. Okay, and I think for the future health of Postgres, we need to make sure that there are multiple companies involved in the longer term. Anyway, it's almost time for beer, so I will leave you with a couple of links. One is to the BDR page, and the other place is to the Cretan Tourist Authority. And if you haven't been there, it really is a lovely place. Lots of history, lovely beaches, very sunny, so definitely recommend it. So. And that's it, I'm done.